Did you just want to name drop Sturm and Drang?
Storm and stress, baby. Wouldn't you say this movie was a little stormy and a little stressful?
Oh, Papa, can we please go to the ball? Oh, here's a 5,000 per annum pounds coming to us, my lord. Oh, we're sisters and we're laughing. Oh, again and again.
I would be offended, but I think that was actually pretty good. Listeners, welcome. We've got week 2 for Summer's Off, season 7.
Season freaking
Season 7. You had to take a sip now. We've been in here. We've been warming up for like 10 minutes, and you take a sip now.
I'll be honest. All the talking like the girls at the beginning really took a lot out of my
did
vocal apparatus. So I need to go in and moisturize these vocal cords.
I'm with your Coke Zero.
My Coca Zero.
Oh, exciting. We're back. That is not a good idea. Do not put your Coke by the new sound equipment. So help me God, Ty Hudson. Put it back.
I put it right by the audio interface, which I know I'm going to have to probably play with in the next like 10 minutes. And I'm like, I'll set it right where I need to touch the knobs.
Oh, well, I already said welcome back. So, Ty.
Yeah, what's up, baby?
Here we are back in our tiny little closet again with our tight little setup. I'll be honest,
it gets tighter by the second.
It's getting more and more snug. Not only have we added our own personal mics, which is very luxurious, let me say. We've also added a music stand.
Yep.
I've decided I can't be bothered to hold the iPad.
Rach decided I won't want anything to touch my hands ever again. I want to be able to be free.
I want to be free to gesture in my podcast.
Even though nobody can see it. It's not a video cast. But I also think that you're kind of doing this in every facet of your life. You're like, I don't want to have to move my hands or move my body or touch anything. I should just be able to be me and be the star that I am.
When you reach a certain age and point, you don't have to deal anymore. I don't have to deal anymore. I'm not working. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm over this.
Before the podcast.
I just want to be like Elizabeth Bennet and just live my life out in the fields on the moors and just let me be. Let me just go read my books and swing on my swing.
Yeah, there's like this is pretty much the Shire like 200 years later.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
We could go that
Appears
route.
right from Lord of the Rings. Which, by the way,
another place.
I'll be honest. If you guys took in that first episode, I just got done editing it right before we were recording this podcast. I felt the stress of that one. Like, I don't think it necessarily comes across strongly in the podcast, but I felt like I had the ring. And like it was a burden on my shoulders to deliver a podcast that I cared about so much. And there's so many nerds out there care about so much as well. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, there's a lot of pressure today.
Yeah.
And this is season opener too. Like that's a tough start.
That is a tough start. You really set yourself up. But I think for success.
Hopefully.
I thought you did great.
I don't know.
I'll be honest, I'm feeling the pinch a bit this week because now I have also stepped into the area of high expectations. Fans either love this adaptation.
You mean great expectations, but that's not her.
Charles Dickens.
That's Dickens.
Nope, not quite. But just the magnitude that is behind something like this, and not necessarily this movie adaptation, but Pride and Prejudice as a book.
Yeah, for sure.
As a masterpiece.
It's kind of like
by
all
Jane Austen.
Austenian works are like.
We're gonna get into all the societies, all of the feedback that they gave this movie and others.
So I don't know if the listeners know this, but I'm kind of an Austenian expert because I may or may not have wrote a 150-page master's thesis all about Sense and Sensibility. And so I kind of sit in this like rarefied air as one of these special scholars of Austen. But here's what I'll say. I don't really remember any of it because that was 2021 and that seems like a bygone era.
It was a long time
Now I'm in PhD world and that has all been moved aside for new information.
That is such a great point. I forgot. I mean, I remember you doing the role, but
you forgot it?
No, I
Oh,
didn't
really
forget
cool,
the
Rach.
role.
It was my master's thesis.
I forgot that you wrote such a big paper on this. That's why we had all those books around the house.
And
for
that's
so
why
long.
we sat in front of the fire in true Austinian fashion. We sat around the fire in December and January over Christmas break pretty much every night while I just dove into books and wrote and wrote and wrote.
Yeah. So I guess
Actually
you
went pretty well.
might have to like fact check me a little bit on the Jane Austen section I have here.
Actually.
I don't have a ton, but like I'm sure something's gonna spark for you. You're gonna remember it.
Maybe, yeah.
And I'll be
We'll
happy
see.
to have you dive in. You should probably lead this one if you hadn't seen the movie, since you are the resident expert.
But I had seen the movie.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's just get into that right now. So
Okay.
you have seen, to be fair, you have seen Pride and Prejudice.
I have.
But not the 2
I didn't
hour
see
and
this
7-minute one. You saw.
I saw like the 6 hour, 9 hour. Is it 9?
It's 9 hours.
Whoa. I saw the
9-hour
9
miniseries.
hour Colin Firth one. And I just watched it not that long ago.
Yeah.
I think I watched it post doing Sense and Sensibility, which is kind of weird. You're like, why didn't you watch it beforehand? But I think I watched it that
It's weird.
summer. And yeah, so I already knew the story.
Yeah.
We can
Very well, I'm
Do you
sure.
want to talk about No, let's
We'll
save
get into it. I
Let's
have
save
a
it
section
because
so
I
we
have
can
stuff
talk
that we
about
can break down.
the differences and some
That'd be good.
intentional. Yeah.
That'd
But
be
so
good.
you are actually you're probably more well versed in the world of Pride and Prejudice than yours truly.
Yeah, well, there were times where like certain characters would come on, and I would turn to Rach and I'd be like, "I don't trust him. He just looks like a douchebag.
That boy's a scoundrel.
You can
I
tell
think.
he's got a ponytail. I hate him."
So if you could, Ty, without thinking about your 9-hour version and kind of condensing.
That was also 2021, so I don't really remember that crazy well
That's
either.
That's valid. 2005 is when this came out. Think about the 2005 2-hour version. What's your synopsis for readers for this one?
Okay, so if we're going back to 05, we are seniors in high school. I would say my synopsis is starting in January, I was getting ready for the musical. We were doing Guys and Dolls that year. And then the rest of 05 was kind of a blur. So that's how I would kind of wrap
This
it
is
up.
actually, so this comes out in the fall of 05, so we're actually off to college.
Oh my gosh, very cool. I can tell you all about that.
Yeah, I actually want the synopsis of the movie,
Dirty
not
30
your...
Keystone Lights? You want to hear about those?
No,
stories?
not your life synopsis.
Okay.
Movie synopsis.
So the movie is about the Bennett babes. And they're this group of sisters, like think Little Women, like it's like 4? 5 sisters, because you got the puritanical one who like plays music. It's like, think about the church, think about your morals. So you got like 5 sisters.
She's a little curmudgeon.
Yeah,
Mary.
I actually really
Mary's
like
a little
her.
curmudgeon, a little wallflower.
Yeah. And then you have the dad who's played by Donald Sutherland, and then you have like an overbearing mother character, which Austen loves. I don't remember if that was a part of her reality or not, but she just loves like an overbearing mom or an overbearing aunt or some overbearing female character.
Oh, my goodness. Everybody behave naturally. And whatever you do, do not appear overbearing. The very insolence of it. What does he think of coming here? Keep still, Jane. Mary, put that away at once. Find some useful employment. Oh, my Lord. I shall have a seizure. I'm sure I shall.
And they're pretty much trying to marry off all these girls. They're like, it's time for you all to go find dudes. And we got some soldier boys. We've got some rich dudes. We've got like some people who maybe are going to steal our house someday. Like we've got a lot of people, a lot of players to come play the game. Yeah. And so we meet all these different entities. And one of them is Mr. Darcy. And Mr. Darcy, that was a bad impression. It's more like, my name's Mr. Darcy. I don't like to dance very much, if at all. It's just like very humdrum, melancholy. And I'll be honest with you, I still don't really know why he's so sad. I mean, there's things that have happened to him that are hard, but I'm like, was it really that hard? I actually thought, I didn't remember this plot point. I thought his sister had died or had gotten knocked up and was ruined.
Mm-hmm.
But neither one of those things happened. His sister just had like what I would call like a 4 out of 10 dramatic breakup that happened. Like up with a high school guy, and you're like, oh, I know, it's sad, sad, sad. You'll get over it. Like she has all her whole life.
She was almost ruined.
She's super cute. She plays piano like a superstar. She's gonna find a guy. Like, what are you worried about? It's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And so Mr. Darcy's all sad, and he falls in love with our main characters, Keira Knightley and Elizabeth Bennet. And there's stuff with her older sister meeting a guy, and then there's stuff with like, should I really like Mr. Darcy? He's kind of a dick, and he's like, and you're kind of precocious, and you're really snippy, and she's like, yeah, but you're just a dick sometimes. And so they have all these conversations, and then all of a sudden they're pouring in the rain. He's like, I'm in love with you. And she's like, well, how could you even say that? And then they like run away, and then we have the will they, won't they for about another half hour, and then they get together.
Oh my God.
By the way, I forgot to rate this movie
or
make a review.
So
I'm going to work on that a little bit while you tell me some things.
Oh my gosh. All right, well, yeah, so that is...
What was that? What did I leave out?
No,
all the dancing? There's 45 minutes of dancing.
Okay. Hot takes.
That's not it. I don't mean that as an insult. I loved it.
I love dancing. I love dancing in movies.
Don't misunderstand me. I enjoyed the dancing, but there's 45 minutes at least of it.
The thing with Darcy is, I think you're right. He's always cold. He's a bit... I don't know. I think it's hard to like understand like why, other than like he's very handsome. I think his coldness is almost just a personality piece. I just think that he just kind of tends just to be more shy and more reserved, and just has a really tough time. He's not really comfortable being out there and being a big social butterfly. That's just not his thing. So I think a part of it is just innate within him, but. Yeah, he's an interesting one. We'll don't worry, we will rank all of the Austen guys shortly.
Oh,
here.
Good.
Yeah, we'll talk about faults, ones that we like, things we don't like about them, all those things. So, let me give you some taglines. So again, this did come out in the Thanksgiving season of 2005, which is a great time for this.
It is. It should be like, if it wasn't then, it should have been like around Christmas. It's a cozy movie.
Yeah, it is a cozy movie. It's a Thanksgiving. Okay, we just got done eating. Let's go see this, and then let's take a big nap.
Yep.
That's the kind of movie
Absolutely.
this is. Let's just lounge around and nap after this.
Yeah, Thanksgiving's is better than Christmas because I want like a real big meal. I don't know why, but I want like quite the meal to accompany this.
I think the weather plays it. It's not like there's no snow. There's
no
no Christmas.
But lots of rain
in this movie. There's lots of rain. It's moody. Today it was raining, you guys, and I said this is the perfect day for this.
Yeah, which is funny because there's not a ton of rain in the 9-hour version.
Yeah,
hardly any rain. So like when you kept talking about like, oh, it's raining, it's perfect for Pride and Prejudice. It's like there's no rain in that. What are you talking about?
We'll get into the rain. Just you wait. So some taglines. It says, this holiday season experienced the greatest love story of all time.
That is bold.
Would we say that?
Romeo and Juliet would like to have a say. They'd be like, excuse me?
Pardon
but
moi?
If we were like breaking it down, is it top 5? Like if you're just asking people that speak English, like as far as English literature, is it top 5? Yeah, probably.
Probably. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I need to think on that. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I mean, like it's like higher up than like Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre. It's higher up than
even within her own romances. Austen, I would say, like over like Emma and Knightley. I might like them better. But
I think we like Emma more. But I think that the world likes Pride and Prejudice
in general
more.
Likes this one more.
Yep, yeah, that's what my argument would be.
The girls like a bad boy.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do.
My name is Mr. Darcy. I don't really like to dance much. They're like, oh yeah, that guy gets me hot.
He barely opens his mouth. Another tagline: a romance ahead of its time.
Oh, okay.
Is it?
I think it's of its time. It's Age of Enlightenment. It like, especially this movie, where they do. Here's what I'll get into this right away.
Okay.
They do a great job of like the manners, and so like the new version of Emma with what's her name.
Anya
Taylor-Joy. They play with that a little bit. They're like, hey, it's kind of like
modern,
it's kind of like The Favorite. They're like, hey, it takes place in this older time, but we're gonna have like some more modern, contemporary mannerisms, and like the relationships are gonna be like a little more contemporary feeling. This is like you are in that time, and the things they do with all the little bows and all the manner stuff is like to a T, like perfection. It makes it feel dated though. So there's a thing with a modern audience how that hurts it, but they nail it from a period style standpoint, from an acting style. All that stuff is there.
It kind of tries to walk that line, I think, a little bit of like freshening it up for a new young audience, because we haven't seen a movie of this since 1940, and then the miniseries was 1995. Like that's really it as far as what we've got to reel people in from a theatrical standpoint with this story. So I think the director really wanted to like make sure that this was something that a newer audience would like, but then also paying homage to kind of like the historical, I don't know, what are these called? There's a name, I'll find it in my format later, but there's a name that these are called, these kind of historical films. So one last one.
Yeah.
Sometimes the last person on earth you want to be with is the one person you can't be without.
Ooh, I like that one. That's a fun tag.
I often think that is true as well.
How dare you?
How dare you, sir?
How dare you? What is Mr. Tulsi?
So director's name is Joe Wright. And this is actually his directorial debut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he had some television stuff before this. Definitely had a vibe and a theme that they thought was exciting, the way he shoots things. His vision.
Love how he shoots things.
Yeah.
I think, and this might be on the cinematographer, the director of photography as well, but I'll just put them both in the same boat. Like they get kudos together. There are some amazing shots in this movie. There's some weird manipulations of light that they explore. There's some stuff that they do long form storytelling where they'll have like the camera on a track and it will go all the way around like a building, like almost in a huge circle where you'll see all these different rooms, and he has different stories unfolding in each part of the house. And he like has these like really specific moments that it would take like a lot of choreography, it would take a lot of timing. And you'd have to have a lot of people involved to be like, okay, dog, run across the screen now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, geese, you gotta go. You gotta follow her and flock away like while she's running away. There's like so many like really specific moments that would have been hard.
Yeah.
And so he gave himself a challenge, and I thought it paid off handsomely.
And we'll talk about this too, but this is all done on site as well. These are not sets that were built. Like these are real old homes that they had to go in and demodify. And so when you think about from a filming perspective how tight some of those corners are, and you've got the whole crew coming in and out of these houses, it's done very well. I would agree. So like I said, this was his directorial debut. He later goes on to film a couple of other movies that you are familiar with. Tell me if you've heard of this one, Atonement.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I could totally see that. I mean, not just the Keira Knightley part, but like some of the I just watched Atonement a couple years ago again, and I like it a lot. And some of his shots in that too, like there's some similarities in some of their shot composition.
Yeah. I think the coloring too is also very similar. I don't think you've ever seen Anna Karenina.
No.
Also Keira Knightley.
He's in love with Keira Knightley.
She might be his muse. Cyrano.
Oh, yeah. Yep, the new one.
Yep, the newer one.
I wasn't a fan.
I know, but
that was kind of poopy.
Kind of well, I don't know if you can see that vibe so much in this one, because
that one's so stylized, and that one's almost like a musical theater adaptation of Cyrano.
Yeah, I would
say.
And
like not even in just how many songs there are, but just in the style. It's like over the top and like too boisterous for me. I thought it kind of killed what I think of Cyrano as, which I love.
Yeah. And then this movie, and I haven't seen this in a long time, but I remember it being fairly well received. Darkest Hour. This is the one about Winston Churchill.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
No, we've seen it, but I haven't seen it in a while to remember shots and what that really looked like. I remember it being good. I think it was Gary Oldman.
Yeah, Gary Oldman's the guy. Yep, best actor.
So so that's what he kind of went on to do after this.
Wow. So he did great.
He did some good work.
Yep.
Other things to know about him, he had never read the original of this. Later, after the fact, he had, but when he signed on to do it, he hadn't read it yet, and he had not seen the 1995 Colin Firth's miniseries, and he refused to watch it.
I don't think that's I don't think that's a bad move.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's good to be like, no, I want my own fresh take. I don't want to be corrupted by theirs.
That's exactly. He said, I don't want to inadvertently steal anything from it.
Yeah, because as much as you don't want to, it will happen. You'll be like, oh, that was brilliant. Oh, I don't really want to take it, but then I'm going to do this thing that's kind of the same, and then everybody's like, that's pretty much the same.
Yeah, he had only seen the 1940s version that had Sir Laurence Olivier in it, and he remembered thinking, I didn't really care for that story very much, which I've never seen the 1941s, but yeah, I would imagine that it's not really anything compared to these last two. So, loved the screenplay though that was written for it. He took it to a pint, and he took it to a pub, and he said he cried in his pint.
Really?
As he read it, he just kind of fell in love with it. He said it's an amazing piece of character observation, and he feels like it's one of the first pieces of British realism. So he immediately was hooked. He wanted to sign on for it. He did go on to watch. Oh, we have.
No, I'm just thinking about that. One of the first pieces of British realism. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I can argue that or not. I'm like just kind of going through everything.
It's not really for me to say, but I have heard that about some of Jane Austen's writing from other critics.
I mean, she's before realism really happens. And so, I mean.
Did she dip her toe into that a
maybe
bit?
inadvertently? Yeah, possibly.
You think inadvertently? You don't think she intentionally decides to like show what it's like to be a woman of the Regency era and being married off for.
But I think some of it is like a little bit exaggerated in a way that's not really realism. I don't know.
Yeah. She plays with comedy a lot, and that's also her other big claim to fame. And as you know, I don't need to tell you, you're Jane Austen. Comedy is a big piece. She's one of the first women of that time to write comedy at that level. He didn't watch the miniseries, but he did watch other adaptations of Austen films, like Sense and Sensibility with Emma Thompson in it, who she, I believe,
Kate Winslet.
Yep, and she wrote that too, didn't she?
Yeah,
write the screenplay?
Emma Thompson. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, no, I think she. I was gonna say I think
she won the Oscar for it.
She did it with another person, but maybe it was just her. But yeah, she definitely was part of it.
He watched the '95 Emma. I think that had Gwyneth in it, and then Mansfield Park, which I have seen, but it's been so long I can't even really remember.
I don't know anything about Mansfield, except for it's in our collection of Jane Austen stories that we have in a big, huge tome.
I'll just get to it at some point. But essentially, he took this script and he wanted to treat it like a piece of British realism instead of this picturesque, traditional depiction that we see a lot of times, where we see this like English heritage as, in his words, depicted as some kind of heaven on earth. Like he wanted this to be, I think their word was like the muddy hem version of Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, okay.
So very gritty, very real. There are sweaty faces.
But that's what makes it almost feel not Austenian. It's almost romantic. If you think about more like Frankenstein, Dracula, like you think about Wuthering Heights.
That's in there.
Yeah, there's like some like she's Keira Knightley's standing on a cliff in one shot, and the camera's like, imagine it like half a mile away or like 100 yards away at least.
Very
not half a mile, 100 yards away, and they're like getting her, and she's just this tiny little figure, and she's wearing this robe that is like a weirdly long robe. And so it's flowing in the wind in a way that I was like, is she like a Star Wars character or what's going on? Like,
it's such an iconic shot.
It is. It's a beautiful shot, but it's like not Austen. It's Wuthering Heights.
Sure.
You know, it's like you can hear the storm clouds and you can see the waves crashing on the shore.
The weather, the nature, how that all plays into it. Yes, those were all like intentionally infused in this to make it feel different and less cold and clean and proper. Like it didn't take place in the parlor room. These conversations take place out by the pigs in the backyard because the pigs are there.
Which, by the way, I know I like maybe sounded like I was kind of ragging on it, like, but I actually liked that it was like more romantic. I love the romantic era. I love how everything's heightened. That's why I kind of fight against that realism part. Because I think this interpretation actually didn't always feel like realism. It felt like it was written in the romantic era, which I like.
Gotcha.
Like heightened emotions, heightened stakes, tumultuous winds and storms.
The writer, other than obviously Jane Austen, the screenwriter, Deborah Mogchak. I wrote her name, but I never said it out loud, and now I have to say it out loud on air. Mogach. Spent 2 years writing the adaptation for this.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was actually on board first, before the director was even a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And she ended up writing 10 different adaptations of this. She said her first adaptation was so true to the book, and it was so long, and then you just kind of keep honing in on what do I want? What do we want the focus to be?
What's important?
And so I think she really talked about really putting it from our lead, Elizabeth Bennet's point of view. And so all of the other stuff kind of just falling away. And because there's so many other stories. The 9-hour version really gets into all the other stories, and she just really just hones it in on what matters the most.
And so I'd be curious if she wrote all those little side stories in some of those long shots, or if he put those in. But no matter what, I thought it was a brilliant way to do it. We're going to focus it on her, and we're going to tell those stories, but they're all these little side things that are happening all around in this world, and we can show it in those long shots.
Yeah, she would say, I think in an interview, she talked about how that was something that he really did a great job of. People asked her about ballroom scenes and how do you choreograph, how do you write a ballroom scene? Because you have all these things that need to happen. And she's like, it really just comes down to what Joe did in the moment, where he would just go around and just kind of have this scene acting out. Everyone's in character the whole time. You don't really tell actors when it's their close-up.
Yeah.
Because he likes the acting when it's not all fresh and glazed over. He says when you get people when they don't think that they're on camera, that's the best.
Sure.
So she would say it was kind of a mix of the two.
I loved how they did the ballroom acting stuff because it was so real, and also you'd be having two conversations depending on who you were by in the dance. And then there would be times where you'd be having a very serious conversation, but you could only talk for the 10 seconds while you're passing each other. And then you have to wait while you get around. And then you're like, oh, we're back in action. Now I can continue reaming your ass about something. I thought that was really funny.
I didn't think it was very funny.
But at the same time, it felt real, and I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Oh. I did not think you danced, Mr. Collins.
I do not think it incompatible with the office of a clergyman to indulge in such an innocent diversion. In fact, several people, with her ladyship included, have complimented me on my lightness of foot.
Another writer for this movie version who is uncredited is
Taylor Swift.
Oh, you wish. Emma Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
She was sought out by Joe Wright. He was having trouble with certain scenes, and so she agreed to meet with him. He said that she was a great help. She helped act out some of the pieces so he could see it. She answered questions about what it's like being in the Jane Austen era, since she had done so much work for Sense and Sensibility. And then she even wrote some of the dialogue for several of the scenes.
Oh, gotcha.
So it just has a little secret sprinkle of Emma Thompson in there.
Emma.
Yeah. Casting. Who do you want to talk about first?
Well, let's talk about Keira.
Duh.
Who else are we going to talk about?
I don't know if we're going to build up to it or go down.
No, I want to start at the top.
Start with one of the most beloved British literature heroines of all time. Maybe number one is Elizabeth Bennet.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth Bennet is 20 years old, the same age that Keira Knightley was when she was offered this role.
Okay.
She had the name recognition coming from Pirates of the Caribbean, and the studio really wanted somebody with a name to start. And the reason why Matthew Macfadyen was able to be hired was because you had a name in Keira. Had you had two lesser-known people, they talked about you wouldn't be able to hire Matthew as well, because I think he hadn't done near as much at that point. She is a super Pride and Prejudice fan.
Oh, okay.
She talked about as a child, she had a dollhouse of Pemberley Place that she used to play with. That would be Darcy's home. But she almost didn't get cast. And because they thought that maybe she was too beautiful. Do you think that might be a problem, Keira Knightley being too beautiful for the part of Elizabeth Bennet?
No. And you know what's funny is I know he hadn't seen the miniseries, but the way that they dress her up and in the hair coloring and how they style her hair, she almost looks just like the Elizabeth Bennet in the miniseries. They look very similar to each other. Even though in general, if I showed you a picture of each, you would say those two girls don't look anything alike. But when you dress them up, they do actually.
Sure.
And so no, I don't think so. I'm not the guy who thinks Keira Knightley is the hottest babe in the world. I think her older sister, the gal from Gone Girl, is hotter.
Oh, yeah, Rosamund Pike.
Yeah, Rosamund Pike. Rosamund Pike is way hotter than Keira. And so because of that, I think it really like helped be like, yeah, she's second fiddle.
So he didn't want, the director, Joe, didn't want her beauty to overshadow those important characteristics of Elizabeth Bennet, which is interesting that you say that she looks like the gal from the 95 one, because Keira Knightley was like so afraid of, again, stealing pieces from that.
They're very different interpretations.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She was so worried that because she loved it so much that she was worried that she would just like step right into it and do a line reading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was going to get into it. I was like, no, we're going to save it. We're going to talk about it later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But the director met her at a bar one night and said, like, oh, no, it's okay. You're fine. Like, you're not too beautiful.
Oh, you're not as hot as I thought you were.
That's how she tells it.
Oh, you're way hotter in Pirates, so I'm not too worried about it anymore.
He said that she has a tomboyishness and a scruffy, independent spirit that's very similar to what he would want in his Elizabeth Bennet, and that she's the type of person who will say what she wants to say and not what she thinks you want her to say. He noticed that in their first meeting, and so he said that she was perfect for the role. Then we get to move on to Matthew Macfadyen, Mr. Darcy, or Tom from Succession. I don't remember when it occurred to me that these two men were the same.
It happened during the season because you were like, oh my God. I think we were in the middle of an episode together. Yeah. And you're like, oh my God. Oh my God.
It took way
Oh my God.
too long.
I think this is so-and-so. And like you showed me. It was the same thing happened with Mercedes from Count of Monte Cristo, who plays Dogma? I don't remember. Her name starts with a D. And I was like, oh my God, it's Mercedes. So we both had these like epiphanies in the middle of the series.
I can't believe it took me as long as it did to remember that. I think some people watch this particular version of Pride and Prejudice yearly, and so for them it would have been very clear, like, yeah, duh, that's who that is.
They watch it yearly?
Some people watch this all the time. Like,
are you one?
No, I just said that. I just said I'm not the person I haven't watched this in like years, and so I think that's why it took so long, because I thought, well, he just looks familiar, but I don't know what he's from.
When I was in Sense and Sensibility, though, you went down an Austin railroad track and a rabbit hole, or we call it whatever we want to call it. Airplane ride, parachute drop, I don't know. So you went on this little adventure, and you watched the Sense and Sensibility with me that Emma Thompson did. You watched this, I remember, because I didn't stay around to watch it. And then you watched the Emma with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yep.
And then I don't know if that other Emma was out yet. Maybe it was coming out.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I watched that one when I was given plasma, so I don't, which didn't happen until my third year. So I'm not sure if that one was out yet.
Yeah. Oh, so good. I could watch Austen all day if I could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite kind of Austen, though? Is it like the more comical approach, like the new Emma did? Is it more of this like romantic, like emotions swirling, the rain is pounding kind of feel? Is it more of like traditional Jane Austen, where it's like, this is the standard stuff right here. This is what she intended. What is your thing?
Well, we'll come back to Matthew Macfadyen, but I will take this detour with you for just a hot second.
Okay.
I will go on the record, and maybe this is blasphemous to other Jane Austen fans, but for me, Emma is one of my favorites. I love the humor in it. I love the silliness of Emma, but it's also very heartfelt, too, and very romantic. This would probably be second for me. I do like this one next, and then Sensibility is third for me.
Okay.
So that's my order, but I tend to like the humor a little bit more than just the all-out drama. But most people would flip that, and most people would probably say Pride and Prejudice is their favorite.
Gotcha. Okay.
What would you say?
Emma's my favorite, and then I would say Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice, I think, are tied for me. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many similarities between them, other than Mr. Darcy. He's kind of like the one piece that's so different.
Yeah, he is.
The whole other like formula is so similar, but Mr. Darcy's presence is like, wait, who's the love interest? Wait, what's he like?
Yeah. Why? Why again?
So he's kind of like you throw everyone for a loop with him a little bit.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mr. Darcy, he was such a fan of him, the director, from his previous work. He had done Wuthering Heights in 98 and a movie called Perfect Strangers in 2001. the director talks about wanted to cast like a real like a manly man, not like a girly boy who looks like a girl, like a boy band girl boy.
Okay.
These are his words, and this is 2005, so you can like.
Yep.
That's what he was talking about. But he wanted a great big hunk of a guy, and so he really wanted Matthew Macfadyen.
I don't think Matthew Macfadyen fit.
What?
I don't think he's a hunk of a guy.
He's so burly compared to like he's got hair on his chest.
So what? But that's not enough. I actually think Macfadyen is not manly enough for this role.
What?
And they had moments where they had his shirt like all undone and he was like flowing and you could just see a little tiny chest fuzz. It's like me if I was showing off my chest fuzz. People would be like, who cares? That guy has a tiny bit of chest fuzz.
He's so big though. Think about Tom in Succession. How he like compares to stature-wise with
I
other
actually
characters.
don't think he's that big.
No?
I don't see Tom as a strong character. He's like a meek character.
Not his
And
character, but his body.
No, I know. I think that the guy Macfadyen, I don't think he plays brawny enough. I think he's too like just an average whatever guy.
What?
Yeah, I don't think he's romantic enough for what they try to cast him in. I thought they were trying to pigeonhole him into it, and I didn't think his acting could handle it either.
Oh, wow.
I thought this was a whiff.
Hot take.
Hot take.
Hot take, everyone. I
thought
was
Macfadyen was a whiff.
I was not
I liked
ready
him.
for that.
I think Macfadyen's a good actor, so he's able to act his way out of it. But it was not a natural fit in either his acting and in his physicality. There was a mismatch there.
Who would you have put as Mr. Darcy?
So,
like, what's the type of guy?
Well, it's tough because I saw a different interpretation and a different flavor with Colin Firth, and Macfadyen actually matches more with that. But because they went a different style, then that's what made Macfadyen not work. It would have worked if you were doing another like Colin Firth adaptation. But I don't know. I needed somebody I need somebody sexier.
I won't disagree from a looks perspective. He's not like the hunkiest of guys, but like I will say like from a stature standpoint, I thought he was well cast. You think about like him like and the guy that they cast for Mr. Bingley and just like the posture and how they stand and
they
just
pick
like
shorter people to cast around him.
Skinnier people, around him. But interesting, boy.
Well, Bingley, they picked like what's his name, the British singer, who's short and has red hair.
Ed Sheeran?
Ed Sheeran. They picked an Ed Sheeran for his best friend. So, yeah, he's a short, redheaded, ugly guy with goofy-ass hair. Yeah, you're going to be like, oh, he's hotter than him. Sure, he's hotter than him.
Bingley's not ugly.
You would not call Bingley ugly?
No, I wouldn't, because you want to know why? Guess who he dated?
Oh, I don't care who he dated.
Rosamund Pike. That's who we're talking about next. Rosamund Pike and Simon Wood, the guy who plays Charles Bingley, dated for two years before this in college. They dated.
Oh, but not during this?
No, it was before this. In fact, it almost hurt his chances of getting cast because the director knew that they were exes.
Yep.
So the director went to Rosamund Pike and he said, hey, are you cool if we ask Simon to be a part of it? Is that going to be weird for you?
Yep.
And she's like, absolutely not. That's cool. Nope, you can be a part of it. And which was crazy because then guess who Rosamund Pike ends up getting engaged to?
Who?
The director.
Oh, wow.
Joe Wright and Rosamund Pike meet during this, fall in love,
Yeah.
and get engaged.
Oh, gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. But sadly, once the save the dates go out, he calls it off.
Really?
And she doesn't really know why.
She still doesn't know?
Well, I didn't read anything other than the one interview that she had that one time.
Oh, okay.
I didn't go down that rabbit hole.
I'll be honest.
But when that was written, she didn't know.
That's a juicy piece of meat that's still on the table, Rach. You maybe need to bring that to the table next episode. Be like, all right, everyone, I'm ready for this tea. I've got the Rosamund Pike marriage story. Here we go.
Yeah, at the time, she's like, I don't really know why he called it off, but they still tried to remain civil. But she was confused by it.
That's wild.
I'm confused by it. I don't know what he was thinking.
Yeah.
If you've seen a picture of Joe Wright, you would think, like, I'm confused. I don't understand.
He outkicked his coverage.
Well, as I think most men would with Rosamund Pike.
Yeah.
Like, she's gorgeous. If you don't know who we're talking about,
Gone Girl.
Gone Girl is probably the most famous movie that she's been in. Also, Saltburn. I think that's like recently. I've not seen it, but she's in that as well. She turned down a role in Harry Potter in order to do this.
Who's she going to play?
Who was she going to play? Take a guess.
Which movie was this?
This would have been a great question. I'm so glad you asked. This
Order
would
of the
be
Phoenix?
Goblet of Fire.
It's
the first time that
she
this
turned out
character-
Fleur?
Nope.
Nope,
She's a little older for that. She plays more of an adult. She's not a student.
Okay. In number 4?
A character that comes
I just
for the
read the
Goblet
audiobook.
of Fire And would have to appear again, I think, in one or two other ones, and that's the reason why she turned it down.
She's the chick with the quill, the writer. What's her name? Rita Skeeter?
Skeeter.
Rita Skeeter with her little quill, and she always licks the tip. She goes, all right, go ahead and say what you're going to say. And then it goes, Harry Potter's a douchebag. He's looking at his lips like an asshole.
Yes, because she would have to keep signing on for future films in order to do all that. She said no.
She said, I can't do that much work.
I want to do more films. Because it conflicted with this. She said, I'd rather be Jane Bennett.
Well, yeah, that I understand. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is probably a little bit bigger of an opportunity. But, I mean, you get FaceTime character in Harry Potter, one of the hottest movies of the century.
And at that point, too, like, it wasn't like you were taking a gamble. You knew it was going to be huge.
It's
a huge
already
movie
gigantic.
franchise.
Yeah,
the
more I think about it, the more I think she did make the wrong choice. She needed that FaceTime. She needed to be like, I got a new turn in Harry Potter. And people are like, what? But, I think it would have been better for her.
That's hard to say.
But I think she had more fun probably doing this.
Yeah.
Way more meat.
Mm-hmm. Definitely more meat. Oh, it's so hard. I think she's probably too serious of an actress.
What would you pick? Because I know you love Harry Potter's your favorite series.
Yeah.
And then, but being able to play this role, you just told me, you're like, oh, yeah, I'd like to play her.
No, I said I would be cast probably.
You would
as
be
her.
cast.
I didn't say I would like to. You're not mincing my words.
Yeah, because Rach has to be the star. This is a new thing with Rach.
That's what I said.
She's a star.
I just said that's who I would be cast as. Because you were trying to play me as like the old friend who gets married off to Collins. You ass. I would probably pick Harry Potter. I would want to be a part of that. I would want that to just be, as small of a part as it was. I would probably take ensemble, random kid walking in the hallway in Harry Potter over most things.
Yeah.
Just to be a part of it.
Didn't Julianne Moore? No, not Julianne Moore. Julianne Hough, didn't she do that?
Yeah, she was like, I think
Ensemble?
in the first movie or something like that. Just
hanging out.
A little Gryffindor running around.
Nice.
How fun. Yeah, just to be a part of it. That would have been great. Which of the younger two do you want to talk about first, Jenna or Carey Mulligan?
Let's talk about Jenna, who is from Donnie Darko.
Yeah, Jenna Malone plays the character of Lydia Bennett.
Yep.
Ty, tell us what's the scuttlebutt with like Lydia Bennett.
So Lydia is a little firecracker. She is a boy crazy, and she's like, I want to go to the balls and everything. And they're like, okay. You can go hang out with your aunt and uncle, I think. Maybe aunt and uncle, cousin, somebody, some family member. And they'll take care of you, and they'll let you like go hang out with all the soldiers and stuff. And then she meets the scoundrel of the movie, and she runs away with him. And they're like, no, we're scandalized. We're going to be ruined. Nobody's going to want to date any of the girls because this like tricked out little hoe bag of a sister. Like all of a sudden we're like, forget hot Rosamund Pike. I'm not interested in her anymore because her younger sister's an idiot. It's a weird idea. And then Darcy like kind of smooths it all over and is like, hey, I'll pay you a bunch of money, you little dick bag, if you just marry this girl. To the asshole guy.
Yeah, I don't really have any other backstory about Jenna Malone. I just wanted you to talk about
what was her character's name in Donnie Darko?
I don't know.
Oh, shoot. I know this usually.
Yeah.
Like 90% of the time I know
it's
this.
a weird name. Henrietta.
No.
Harriet.
Shit.
But you were surprised to see, I was like, Ty, who is that? And it took you forever to find out.
Yeah, I was like, I can't see her. Can't see her face.
The youngest daughter was Carey Mulligan. Baby Carey Mulligan.
Did you know she's only a year older than us? And what
Carey
have you
Mulligan?
done with your life?
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. Gretchen is her name, by the way.
Gretchen.
Literally, I typed in Donnie Darko cast, and before I hit enter, it popped in my mind, Gretchen. So I didn't even see this yet.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, she's
Prove
not
it.
even, look, she's not even on the main cast page.
Ugh.
I have to scroll for that. Show more, Gretchen. Nailed it.
Amazing.
That good.
But yeah, so this was Carey Mulligan's first film,
Gosh.
obviously, because she's such a baby.
So this came out 2005?
Mhm.
So she would have been like 18 when they were filming, probably, because we would have been like 17.
Yeah, it would be 04 when they filmed.
And so that's insane. She has so much like baby fat, you almost don't recognize her. She looks like a sister of Carey Mulligan.
Yeah, for sure.
She's so little.
Yeah. She had, again, more rabbit holes to go down that I did. She was rejected from acting school. I don't know what acting school it was.
Sure.
But she was
if
rejected
it was like,
from somebody.
Can you believe she got rejected from NYU? Columbia?
Tish?
Princeton? What? It's like, okay. She get rejected from, like, Wyoming?
Welcome to the club, lady.
Missouri? Like, where'd she apply to?
Well, she ended up in whatever program she went to. There was a screenwriter who came to their college and did a speaking engagement. She ended up writing the screenwriter a letter, and then she and other students were later invited. This sounds so weird. The screenwriter had them over for dinner, and at this party,
was it a guy?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, why don't you come on over?
Tell me more about your troubles.
Yeah, maybe I can help you with your career.
And he introduced her to the casting assistant who was working on this. And then after, they said 3 auditions, she finally got the role for this. But just reading all of that, I thought, like, oh, gosh, it's one of those things.
Yeah, a little interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who knows? Maybe their teacher was there, and it was like the whole class, including the instructor. Then it's not weird at all. But when you just tell the story like that, sounds a little
This is all I have to tell you. You mentioned there's also other big hitters like Donald Sutherland is in this as
Donald
Mr.
Sutherland's awesome.
Isn't he great as the dad?
Yep.
He does a nice job of like the director wanted it to be somebody who could like handle himself around that many women. Like he just
I
this
I
is
think
my life.
that works great.
I'm around this craziness all the time. Other people that you may or may not know, Carolyn Bingley, so this is the sister of Mr. Bingley, is played by Kelly Riley, and she most recently was in Yellowstone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think she's in the first season of Yellowstone, so the big one.
Okay.
I've not watched it, so I don't know, but Brendan maybe is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
That one's passed me by.
Yeah.
That's one of those
Kinda
that's
missed that
too many
boat.
seasons, and now I'm like, nope, not ever going to catch up on that one. Sorry, everybody. Have fun, though.
And the only other 2 I want to just touch on are we've got Mr. Collins, who is played by Tom Hollander. Have you seen him before in things?
No, you're gonna have to. Oh, Mr. Collins is the short guy with the mullet, right?
Yes, he's
I have
the
seen
cousin who is
Yes.
set to inherit. The
I
whole,
have seen him in
the
other
whole
things,
place.
but I can't place him.
Yeah.
I don't know from where. Do you know anything that he's
I
done?
didn't write anything down. I don't remember what
I
I
almost
looked up.
wonder if he did.
He does
some...
a lot of stuff, a lot of little stuff here and there, here and there.
Yep. He looks super familiar. He's actually really good.
He's very
He
funny.
almost has like an Asperger's quality with him, and then he's got this ugly like mullet, but it doesn't look like a mullet from our age. It looks like a
it's
mullet from
old-
their age.
An old mullet.
Yep, an Austinian mullet. It's amazing. So look that up.
What a superbly featured room, and what excellent boiled potatoes. Many years since I've had such an exemplary vegetable. To which of my fair cousins should I compliment the excellence of the cooking?
And then maybe the heaviest hitter of all, we have the very end, almost a cameo, I would say.
Yeah.
Dame Judi Dench.
And I told Rach I didn't even need a whole word. I needed 2 syllables, and I knew it was her.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's Judi Dench.
Yeah, the camera's coming up behind her, and you just hear a,
Yeah, you hear like, and I'm like, Judi Dench.
Judi
Sorry.
Dench. It's Judi Dench. Judi Dench was a part of this because Joe Wright wrote her a letter asking her to be a part of it.
He said, please.
Please, please, please.
Please.
And he did a little, I don't know what you want to call this. He wrote in it, I just love it when you play a bitch. So please come and play a bitch for us. So they must be friends.
Yeah.
They must have been on a pretty
because
close.
that would not work in a lot
Well,
of
apparently
instances.
it worked. And she's like, yeah, okay. I'll come be a bitch.
She probably also thought like, wait, I can do this all in 1 day, 2 days?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
fine.
essentially what it was. She was like, here's my schedule. You make it work around me. And so I think they did some of her stuff right off the bat.
Yeah.
They got that done. So there you go. All right. Any questions about that before I move on to filming?
No. Were there any of the sisters that you liked more than the others? Who was who was your least favorite sister?
Lydia.
Which one's Lydia?
Lydia is the one who has Scandal, played by
Gretchen.
Gretchen.
Yep. Gretchen's my
Or
least
Janet.
favorite too.
Yeah, she's just annoying, and she's supposed to be.
She's supposed to be
She's supposed to
annoying.
be annoying, but I mean, again, the actress does a great job of it. So I'm not saying that I don't like her from an acting standpoint. I don't like her from she takes energy from me.
Yeah.
She would take energy from me.
Same.
Kitty, who's played by Carey Mulligan, is just a follower, so she doesn't annoy me as much.
But also annoying. Though.
Yeah.
I like the little pessimistic, puritanical one. Yeah,
the little
I like
wallflower who plays the piano all the time.
Yeah. There's a moment at the dance where Donald Sutherland is like, all right, we've heard enough piano playing, because a bunch of the girls are like making fun of his daughter while she's playing these like churchy kind of hymns pretty much. And he like closes the piano on her and she runs off and cries. And then the camera does this whole swirl. It like visits everybody. And then it goes through and then you can see him like consoling her and they're like hugging and she's like, I just hate the balls. Or whatever. And it's actually a really sweet moment, but it's funny too. And you're like, oh, that's really clever.
I agree. Poor Mary. She just misunderstood.
I hate the balls.
So filming, this was all filmed in the UK on site, like we talked about earlier, on several locations. It was filmed in Derbyshire, Wiltshire, Berkshire, Lincolnshire, and Kent.
Wow. All the counties that I hear British people talk about.
I just want to point out that I pronounced those correctly, I believe. I didn't say Derbyshire. I just said Derbyshire.
Yeah,
so
that's
I'll
good.
Just throw that out there.
What if J.R.R. Tolkien always meant it to be called the Shire, not the Shire?
Wait, was this the Shire?
Oh, welcome to the Shire.
That's a really, really good question. The only thing that wasn't filmed at an actual location, like a big manor house, was the first dance, which was made in a potato warehouse.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what that is, but a warehouse of potatoes. I think just that they needed the space, and so they were able to dress that up for the first ball that we saw. So, like I said earlier, many of the sites needed a lot of work so that they didn't look like they were touched by the 21st century. So that means like looking at the crown molding and making sure like, oh, nope, this actually came out in this era. So now we've got to put in these, I don't know if we call them flats, over top of some of the boards that were in there. There were 3 weeks of rehearsal before they started filming. The very first thing that they did was the dance rehearsal. And this was because the director really wanted to help break the ice and wanted everyone to kind of feel a little foolish and a little silly. He says this about actors.
We started Sense and Sensibility with the dance.
Did you?
Yeah, no joke. It was like we did improv stuff on day one, table read day one, improv stuff day two, and then dance on day 3.
Yeah.
Must be a good way to start.
I think there's something to that. So this is what he says about actors. He says, when actors arrive on set, they always eye each other up, trying to work out who's going to be the weakest link and who's going to be competition, and then also working out whether they're going to snog each other. Would you agree? Is that what the first day of rehearsal
That is such
for
a
everybody?
reductive way to talk about actors. What a piece of shit. No. Here's what you do. You walk around and you're not thinking, oh, am I better than so-and-so? You're thinking, number one, you feel a little bit of imposter syndrome. So you're like, do I deserve to be in the room?
Yeah.
So you're thinking more inferiority rather than like, who am I going to F and who am I going to fight? It's not like that. But you're also curious about who's a dick. Yeah. And so you're like, am I going to be friends with any of these people? Are there dicks in the room that I want to stay away from?
Yeah.
So you're feeling inferior and you're worried about assholes. Those are the two feelings you really have.
Yeah.
Not who do you want to make out with, suck face with, and who
Who's
do you
the
want
weakest link?
Yeah, and who you think is a piece of shit.
So they did the dance rehearsal also. And then he had the Bennett family spend some time together in the Bennett house, doing a lot of improv pieces. They also got to play one of my favorite games, Sardines.
Zip, zap, zop.
No. Zip, zap, zop. It's one of my least favorite.
Zip.
Zap.
You didn't clap at me.
I hate this
you
game.
You let the energy all just dissipate right into this small studio closet.
Did.
I can't even send it back to you now. It's not even here. So I can't. Who's gonna zop? Audience is gonna have to zop us.
It's a worthless game.
I hope you zopped us already.
No, they got to play the game Sardines, which is, I can see by the look of your eyes that you don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I played Sardines before with you. I don't really remember it super well. Yeah. Is it the one where... No, you just explain it. I gotta confused with Ghosts in the Graveyard. I was like, I'm not gonna even say it.
That's good. No, sardines is the reverse of hide and seek. So one person goes to hide, and then everybody else looks for them. And when you find that person, instead of saying like I found you, you hide with them.
That's
and so
right.
then there's one person that's left at the end who is searching for everybody because they're all found this hiding place. And it's called sardines. It's because a lot of times like you're in a cupboard or a closet and you're all squished in, and it's very, very funny. So the guy, Tom Hollander, who plays Mr. Collins, the short, odd guy, he said that it was the happiest day of his life when he was in a cupboard with all 5 of the Bennett sisters. I think that would be fun, running around an old house like that.
Yeah.
And then he also just really wanted to encourage it to feel family-like. So like there's behind the footage of them like running around screaming and just like having fun and like making it feel homely. And I think you can see that even at the very beginning scene when they're coming into the house. There's just like it's like they've been there for a bit.
Yeah.
Another thing that was unique is instead of going back to their trailers, all of the actresses had their own bedroom in this house. And so they went back to their bedrooms, their characters' bedroom, and that's where they spent time when they weren't being asked to film.
Cool.
So it was like really kind of kept you in the world a little bit. They also did things like they had fires lit in each of the rooms, and so like it smelt like at the time period, all the livestock, all the animals, all of that was kind of happening at the same time. So it was really like trying to like build that atmosphere where people feel relaxed and they can express themselves freely and try things and are not afraid because it's very homey and they felt that way. So
cool.
So I guess he's, reductionist when it comes to like what an actor does on day one, but a better job I think at what a director's job is.
Sure. Did anybody step in shit?
Oh, I'm sure. I hope I didn't write that, but I'm sure.
Yeah.
That outdoor area would just be so full
for sure.
and would smell awful.
You said you wanted me to look at the pig's balls. Do we want to get into that
yet? That was just so there's like little like random clips, little random scenes that are highlighted, and one of them that I came across is the pig testicles. And if you've seen it, like there's this like 5-second scene where they're bringing in this big pig who's going to inseminate the other pigs that this farm has, but he essentially like walks through like part of the kitchen, and he's very well endowed.
Yeah.
And it's like I think there's a lot of questioning, like, so why? And I think the director was like, this is critical to the movie. Like, is he well endowed? Yes, but like this is all like this male presence like coming in. And, it just felt with, like, the theme of, like, this marrying off of these, like, women, and also still keeping in mind that you've got, like, this agricultural feeling of this house is, like, a working farm at the same time. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's such a stretch. And what I'll say is, if that's what they were trying to do, I don't think this accomplishes the whole, like, I don't know. It didn't feel like it was a story about gender. I mean, I know it is. Gender's a facet of it, but like that whole idea of like, it's about the patriarchy and stuff. Nah, come on, like the patriarchy's there, but that's not what the story is.
No. I think it was a joke. I think it just happened to be a joke, and then
You think he was like, that pig's got huge balls. We gotta get him in the scene. The guy's like, I'm gonna come through the house. It's like, bring him through the house.
No. I think they had the idea of a pig coming through the house just to like show like the craziness of this house and like where the Bennetts are at social class wise. But the fact that the pig happened to have really huge testicles was kind of like, oh, okay.
Slam dunk. I want that one.
I guess we'll just roll with this. I don't know. You think back to like
camera,
the editing.
The camera held steady on the balls for like a good 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. That to me is purposeful. That was not like, incidentally caught his nuts swaying in the wind. It was like you zoomed in on him almost.
It got as much time as the infamous Mr. Darcy hand flex.
Yeah,
that
it
did. Is so intentional. Let's talk about that. Ty, tell us what's happening with Mr. Darcy's hand.
Okay, but I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I only saw it happen twice.
Yeah, no, that's it.
I know, and I think it needed to happen more.
It happened twice? I only remember it the one time.
Well, there was the flex, and then there's another one where they zoom in on his hand, and his hand is in like a more gripped position. And it was after like another moment, and I thought I was like, am I supposed to see like another flexy or like jittery moment?
I don't know about that one, but talk about the one where the hand flexes.
So this is the first moment where there might be a spark. And Keira Knightley's like, And when he's like been I'm Miss Darcy, and I'm like a dick to you right now, and I'm gonna say little smart-ass things. And she's like, yeah, I can be a smart-ass too. And so she's getting into her carriage, and he like really deftly takes her hand to like help her get into the carriage, and she almost doesn't realize what happened. Yeah. And then she realizes, oh my God, that was Darcy. He helped me into my carriage.
Just touched my hand.
And she's like looking over at him, and he's walking away like abruptly. And then you see his hands, and he like does this thing like you're gonna stretch your hands to give a high five. Like that's pretty much what he's doing with his hands at his side. So he like puts a lot of tension into it, and it's like, oh, I touched her. Like I don't know. That's what I took from it. He's like, oh my God, I touched her. In
a bad way or a good way?
I think it was.
It's pretty
good, but he was feeling bad about it being good.
Yeah. Ooh, it's complicated. Yeah. So that happened in rehearsal. Matthew Macfadyen did that one day in rehearsal, and Joe saw it and honed in on it, and he went to his cinematographer, like, get that.
The hand.
Zoom in on the hand. And so then he did it ever since after that. Yeah. That was just a choice. But that is actually kind of iconic. It's almost memeable. There are memes about this hand flex. Yeah, I don't know. This would be, again, for the person who watches this film several times a year.
Wow.
Would know exactly what I'm talking about when I say the hand flex.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's talk about another iconic scene. The walking across the moors scene at the very end.
Okay.
It's
when he's shirtless. When this is the moment where I was like, he's just
unbuttoned.
He's just
unkempt. He hasn't slept all night.
This was the moment where I was like, officially, like he does not fit in this style. This is that moment for me.
Oh dear.
So yeah, the moor scene. It's like Heathcliff from Wuthering Heights coming across the moor is pretty much what it is.
That's exactly what it's like.
They miscast it as not Heathcliff.
Respectfully disagree.
That's
but
fine.
A fun thing about this is Macfadyen has really bad eyesight, and it was really like very misty that morning. It doesn't look as misty, but we couldn't see. And so we've got Joe Wright here with like giant red flags behind the camera being like, over here, run this way. Over here, Matthew. So it kind of like takes the romance out of that like steamy walk across the moors. I can't see.
There's also like several times in this movie where characters just incidentally find each other, and I'm like, why would you be walking over here right now?
It's true.
And stumble upon each other.
I don't really understand how this
like,
comes about.
You're over here. I didn't even think to see you here. And it's like, okay.
Right. And
that's
again,
the person you're going to deliver the letter to in this random field. And you're like, oh, found her.
Right. And this is not in the book. This is its own thing with the movie. In the book, I think that scene happens in an art gallery or something, or an indoor space. It's not outdoors.
There's nothing like it in the Colin Firth one.
Yeah.
There's no steamy moor in the rain.
No steamy moor.
There was no rain in that one. There might have been a little bit of rain, but barely any.
Well, let's shift just a little bit before I come back to talking about other favorite scenes or disfavorite scenes. Let's talk about the adaptations versus each other.
Okay.
So you're the expert on the 95 one, so you're going to have to hit me
strong.
with...
That was a strong...
You just talked about how you wrote
label.
A thesis about Jane Austen, 150 pages,
yeah.
and you can't tell me anything about the 1995 version of this?
Of Pride and Prejudice?
Yeah.
Well, because I didn't even watch that before I wrote that thesis. I watched it afterwards.
It should be fresher.
Yeah, I suppose. So...
Just things that you remember. Take away just like little things of the differences you note.
It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of
very talky.
It's very talky. It's a lot of talking about it and not showing it, which I mean is Austen though too. Like in her book, she's like that. I read Sense and Sensibility, and there's.
Do you want to just like clarify?
That was a flex.
Like, just so you know.
Just so you know, everyone. I read Sense and Sensibility.
I did read
so
it.
Like.
Yeah.
I kind of don't know what I'm talking about.
Long.
There's a lot of like, so-and-so's lineage. If you trace so-and-so back to this, you can see that Lady Granmel is like over here, and then there's Sir Isaac Newton over here.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty cool.
You got mixed in, huh?
Lineage is cool. So, yeah.
Any other things other than talky?
Well, so, yeah, it's very talky. Colin Firth he's good in what they want it to be. Like I know what they're going for, and he accomplishes it, and the gal accomplishes it too. But I just don't really like. I don't really like
Mr.
the
Darcy.
dynamic.
Oh.
I think
You don't like Mr. Darcy?
I would like to play him though. So this is bizarre.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I want to play Mr. Knightley more than Mr. Darcy.
Sure.
Mr. Knightley's fucking off. I get one. It's PG-13.
You blew it.
Mr. Knightley is freaking awesome. But Mr. Darcy is a challenge that I would welcome, but it's a challenge because he's so moody.
Yeah, how do you
he's
make
so
him
somber, so melancholy.
not hateable?
That I think it's easy to just be like, oh my gosh, this douchebag. Okay, figure it out. Fall in love already. And so I think, and part of it is on Austen. She didn't give him a lot of reason to be so sad. That when you hear his reasonings, you're like, why are you such a morose piece of shit then? I don't understand.
So this is your opinion of me. Thank you for explaining so fully. Perhaps these offences might have been overlooked had not your pride been hurt by my honesty in admitting scruples about our relationship. Could you expect me to rejoice in the inferiority of your circumstances?
And those are the words of a gentleman. From the first moment I met you, your arrogance and conceit, your selfish disdain for the feelings of others made me realize that you were the last man in the world I could ever be prevailed upon to marry.
Forgive me, madam, for taking up so much of your time.
And so part of it is on the writing of just the story in general. And
you don't think he could just be innately sad? Like some people just aren't happy people.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could be like a Snape, but back
to Harry Potter.
I don't know. I just don't think it's that interesting.
Okay.
I have a problem with the character, I think, in general.
Yeah.
And so
I just want you to know I don't disagree because I'm not a Darcy girl.
Yeah.
I'm a Knightley girl.
Knightley is awesome.
Always have been. I can see it there.
He's clever. He's great. He's like, oh, bally done, Emma. Bally done indeed.
Yeah. He's a great confidant. He's like your bestie. Yeah. I'm all Knightley, but Darcy...
They're dirty and flirty, and Emma, I love that. It's like they got the cousin thing going on. That's sexy. It's
I don't think
forbidden.
they're cousins, are they?
I don't know. They're stepbrother and stepsister in Clueless.
No,
so
they're
I think they're like cousins in. I think they are cousins.
I don't think they're cousins. I don't think they're related.
Pretty sure. You look it up while I keep talking about differences.
All right.
So, and then they do a lot of we're gonna go to some rich ass person's house and just talk in their Downton Abbey living room.
Yeah, that's true.
In the adaptation, in the old adaptation, not so much in this one. They're much grander about it. They're like, let's go to this grand hall. Let's go talk outside. They do a lot of different things. And the other one, they're like, yeah, we're just gonna go to this fancy little lobby, and someone's gonna play piano, and we're gonna chat in our different sections of the living room and kind of talk to each other at the same time. It's like watching those scenes from Downton Abbey for about 9 hours. So it's a lot.
So the best scenes.
No, it's a lot. It's too much.
Yeah. I think that's a huge, that's probably the easiest thing to say between these two, other than the time periods, how long they both are, but just the talkiness. I think so much is just internalized in this version that you just think...
Keira Knightley is better than the other gal too.
Yeah.
I think Keira Knightley's really good.
I think she's very good in this. I would agree.
Yep.
I have not seen the other gal, but I know that she's good in this.
The other girl is good. But she's not. There's not as much depth. Keira Knightley, there's a lot of shit going on with her.
Yeah.
And she's really good at just juggling all those different feelings.
Yeah. You see, we like to say, the wheels are turning. You can see the wheels turning.
Yep.
All right. Answer to your question. Emma and Knightley are in-laws. Her sister married his brother. So they have nieces and nephews in common.
Okay.
But they are not related. So
yes.
Two sisters can marry two brothers.
Okay.
And that's what happens.
Yep.
So the family is all the more connected.
Wow. Saucy.
Yeah. Wild.
Still saucy.
Still very saucy. Yeah, that's true. That would be wild today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what also makes this adaptation unique is it does not actually take place in the Regency era. So the actual book Pride and Prejudice came out in 1813, which is Regency, but that's when it was published. Austen first wrote this in 1797. I was going to say,
this is late 1700s.
Yes.
I knew that part.
Oh, did you?
I
know you did.
I did know that part.
Of course you did. You knew. And that was intentional.
Because sense was first.
Yes. Yep.
And it was 1795 or 4 or something like that. It was pretty soon before this.
Yes. Yep. So her first draft of this was actually called First Impressions, and that was written in 1797. First Impressions. Fun little tidbit. When Keira Knightley is reading a book at the very beginning, and she's walking through the fields.
Is she reading First
Impressions?
Oh my gosh.
Teaser. But so some reasons why he wanted to keep it with that time period instead of doing Regency is, one, he wanted to set his apart from the others that had been done, so this would look different. He also wanted to explore what it would be like right after the French Revolution and how that would impact British society. So French Revolution, we just before this had the Reign of Terror, which Ty was. You want to explain to our listeners what
the
that
Reign
was?
of Terror, it's when Robespierre.
Oh, no, you're going to get really detailed. I thought just keep it light, like
the
2
guillotine.
sentences.
Okay, guillotine. Ever heard of it?
20 words.
Chops people's heads off. Guess what? Guess where that came from? Robespierre and the French Reign of Terror.
Very good. Oh, that was so good.
Boom.
Impressive.
Heads roll, baby.
Rolling.
And guess who put a stop to it?
Who?
Napoleon!
Napoleon!
I mean, he didn't put a stop to it, but he was like the next guy to kind of take over.
So essentially, what you have now in British society is they're watching that and being like, oh no, maybe highborn Brits are like, maybe we should like familiarize ourselves with the locals. Maybe
That was
we
a
should
big part of
hang
my
with
thesis.
them. Maybe we should go to these dance halls. And so that's why he wanted to also play it, because in this scene, you have all of these like these poorer locals having this party, and then you have like these 3 highborn Brits come in, and everyone's like, "Oh, hello." It's so it's so awkward, but it's great. He really wanted to like feel that tension of class, and Pride and Prejudice is like that's the whole theme of it. It's about class, and how that impacts us. So that was a piece, and then the other piece that it was kind of interesting is he hates empire silhouettes. Empire silhouettes are when the dress comes all the way up to like right under the boobs here.
Okay.
He thinks they're ugly.
Yep.
He thinks that it's more flattering if the waist comes out a little bit lower.
And so you just have to drop your time period like 20 years
just like
or 15
couple
years. And then...
especially for people who are lower class, they wouldn't be up to date with it. So you can see like most of the dresses for like Elizabeth and her sisters hit them at their natural waist, which is just like 3 inches lower. It's still pretty high. Like I had to go back and look. I thought, no, I think they're all wearing empire dresses. They're not. But Carolyn Bingley, the fancy one, the fancy sister, she is the only one who is wearing empire stuff because she is ahead of the time and she is very rich. So,
wow.
So it really comes down to he just hated the dresses.
Okay. Well, it kind of makes sense with his romantic thing too, because the romantic era is a little ways into the 1800s. I think Sturm und Drang, it happens in the late 1700s in Germany, and then it starts to go to Britain and France in the early 1800s. It's pretty in fashion like by the 1830s.
Did you just want to name drop Sturm und Drang?
Storm and stress, baby. Wouldn't you say this movie was a little stormy and a little stressful?
So and then that really hits on another piece of it is all the rain. There's so much rain and so much moodiness in this that is not in the book.
Yeah.
And it's not in any other version, but why not, you know?
Why not?
They had weather.
Yeah, they did.
Let's wait it to our advantage.
I mean, she got caught in the rain and got sick.
She does. That is a part of the
older
story.
sister does.
That does happen
So
one
that
time.
happened.
That did happen.
That happened.
Other people would say, and these are maybe even critiques too, is that it depicts the Bennets as country bumpkins, and that's not necessarily how they were written to be, but that's kind of what this version feels. Like they're very agricultural. Like we talked about the pig in the kitchen, like very dirty, very sweaty.
What's interesting though is because none of Austen's characters are lower class. They're all like kind of upper middle class. They're like just below the gentry and just below the upper crust. And so they're always like, it's within the realm of possibility that they will then be able to marry above their station and get to that upper level for each one of her like main families.
Yeah. I feel like the only one that's not that is Emma. Emma's the only one who she doesn't have to marry because she's
already rich.
She's rich.
Yep.
Yeah. But then she marries for love. Which is why she gets to spend her time playing matchmaker, because she doesn't have to worry about herself, so she can waste her time on other people.
Yep.
The other critique that people talk about with this adaptation is it's very sympathetic to Mr. and Mrs. Bennet. It's not a critique necessarily, but just a difference. I think sometimes the Mrs. Bennet especially can be more annoying than she was.
Oh, gotcha.
More annoying.
Yep.
You can imagine, because she's kind of an annoying character. But I think she's got lines in there that are pretty clever when she talks about, like, when you have 5 daughters and you have to get them married off, you tell me what you think about all the time.
Sure.
Like,
yep.
Like, well, yeah, I guess that'd be a part of it. Yeah. Any thoughts on those?
No. I was just thinking about some of her other female characters. Like in Sense and Sensibility, it's the aunt. They have an aunt who's a real big dick. And not really a dick though. She's actually kind of sweet, but she's like, "Oh, we have to get you married. Oh, we're going to go meet the Willoughbys. Oh, we're going to go here." And so she's just always like conniving.
Let's talk about some scenes. Do you have any favorite scenes, or maybe just favorite scenes or bits?
No. I like when we see Darcy's house.
Oh yeah,
and
Pemberley.
We see Pemberley Place, and it's like the beautiful painting on the ceiling, and she's just looking around. There's like a black and white checkered floor right off the bat, and they do like an above the head shot straight down, and it kind of was like, oh yeah, because he's so black and white, he's so rigid in his like view of the world. He's like, yeah, no, you either got me or you don't.
It had nothing to do with what was already at the house.
Nope. I know that they put the new tiling in. And then he's such a rich bitch. He's got his own statue even before he turns like 35, 40 years old. He's already got a statue of himself.
He's already got a bust.
Yeah,
that's
like, wow,
true.
That's awesome. So one thing I didn't like, they needed more Dickhead Wickham.
That was actually a critique. There's like, I'm a little light on the Wickham. I kind of like traded some stuff.
You get like I'll say 1.5 good scenes with him and Elizabeth.
Lydia.
And and Elizabeth.
Yes.
Then you see him at the end. But I don't care about him at the end so much. That's already been kind of resolved by then. I want more of like her kind of being like, yeah, F Darcy, you're the cool one. I think I really like you. And you get a lot more of that in the miniseries.
Yeah.
So you see their relationship a lot clearer. And so we miss that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
So I think that's a major weakness of this adaptation.
Yeah, a little bit more Wickham would be all right. Maybe a few less pig testicles and a little bit more Wickham.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
The ending was supposed to be, one of the ideas was to have a wedding scene, but the Brits were like, this is too cheesy. We cannot possibly go around and do like a pan, like, okay,
they love
everybody.
Triple weddings, though, or double weddings at the end of Austen work.
I suppose, but they just like couldn't bring themselves to have like this like cheesy wedding ending. But there are 2 different endings. There's a British ending and an American ending.
What?
Yes. We saw the American ending.
Oh, yeah.
And by the ending, I mean the final scene when they're at Pemberley Place and they're kissing at the night. They're just, Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth are just out there. They've already been married. They're just sitting there kissing
Are they already married?
Yeah, they're already married.
Oh,
they can't kiss until they're married.
Well, that's the thing. I thought that was the one moment they broke decorum, but I thought it was warranted. I was like, wow.
No, that's why he calls her Mrs. Darcy.
Well, I thought he said that.
He was saying it early.
Like, you said that early. Like, what about when I call you Mrs. Darcy? Because now they're engaged.
No, they're married.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what shall I call you when I'm cross? Mrs. Darcy?
No. You may only call me Mrs. Darcy when you are completely and perfectly and incandescently happy.
And how are you this evening, Mrs. Darcy? Mrs. Darcy. Mrs. Darcy.
Yeah. So you got to keep with decorum.
Yeah.
That's why they allowed them to kiss. So that was the U.S. scene. And the British one ends after her father gives her permission. That's where that one ends. So do you have some, before I read you some of the reactions to the different endings, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I love when Donald Sutherland gives her permission. I think that's an awesome scene. And I think it's superbly acted from both of them. But that would be an unsatisfying ending because it's really about Darcy and her. It's a love story. And so it feels like we tie it back to the family, being a family story rather than a love story. And the way this whole movie is set up, it might, like, I mean, you could debate, is it more about the family than the love story in like other adaptations? But this one's the love story. And so to end there is really bizarre to me.
Yeah, and you could end it. They talked about you could end it when they're in the field and he proposes, but the director really wanted to go back to see the family's reaction to that. So
yeah.
And then you don't get a kiss otherwise because you just proposed. You can't kiss yet.
The Americans, being an American, we needed a kiss.
We needed a kiss.
If we didn't get a kiss, it would have been very unsatisfying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we would have been like, but it was just on the hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she kissed his hand. We didn't even get to see him kiss her hand. I want to see exchanges of hand kisses. Consensual.
So here's what people thought about it. Members of the Jane Austen Society of North America, or JASNA, saw an early screening of it, and this is what they said. They said, it has nothing to do at all of Jane Austen in it. It's inconsistent with the first 2/3 of the film, insults the audience with its banality, and ought to be cut out of the release.
This is the kiss at the end?
They didn't want the kiss. The American Jane Austen Society said, get that kiss out of here. It's not Jane Austen at all.
Bunch of old fogies, if you ask me.
British fans also had an idea. So British fans have the non-kissing version, and this is their rebuttal. British fans launched a petition. They said, what did us poor Austen aficionados in the country of her birth, no less, do to deserve such an injustice? So they wanted the kiss. They were like, how dare you? Why don't we get the kiss?
This sounds like the political situation in America right now. I'm mad, and then it's like, well, you want that? No, I'm mad about that too. I'm mad either way.
I'm also mad.
I'm mad no matter what.
Coincidentally, it was re-released 10 weeks later in the UK and in Ireland so that you could add the kiss into it. So they did get their kiss after all, eventually.
Yep. But Americans never got their kiss retracted. They're still mad.
No, they're still, they still had to watch it. Watch that kiss.
Ugh. So mad.
It's the banality of it all.
I could not be more mad.
What do you think Mr. Darcy's first name is?
Pembroke Darcy.
It is actually his mother's maiden name, which only comes out one time, and you will never know because he's never addressed by it. But his first name is Fitzwilliam.
Fitzwilliam
Darcy.
Fitzwilliam
Darcy. Now it's time to play Scoundrel or Gentleman.
Oh, very nice.
It's a fun little segment I have for you. So, Ty, I'm going to say a name of a male Jane Austen character.
Okay.
And you have to say whether they are a scoundrel or a gentleman.
This is going to be tricky because I have a lot of things rolling around my head. Okay.
You got a lot of these. All right. I will start at the beginning.
Yep.
And if you have more to say about this character, where they're from, bonus points for you.
Okay.
Mr. Knightley.
Gentleman. From Emma.
Charles Bingley.
I'm on the spot right now. Bingley is a gentleman. He is from this movie. He's a redheaded guy.
He's a redheaded guy. He's an Ed Sheeran guy.
Yeah, he's Ed Sheeran.
All right.
But he's very sweet. He's a sweet boy.
We're getting
sweet,
you warmed
ugly
up.
boy.
Here we go. Frank Churchill.
Well, okay, he's a scoundrel from Emma.
Say more.
But I actually think he is the best of the three scoundrels if we're looking at the three movies.
And why? Why would you say that?
Because he just married another girl, and he just was like hiding it because he couldn't be with her openly because she's poor.
Yeah.
And so he like married for love, and yeah, he's flirting with all these other girls, and they might have got led on, but it's really because he had to put up a show, and so it's kind of altruistic.
He had to wait for his aunt to die so that he could marry who he wanted to.
Yeah,
it's true love.
And so for me, I actually think Churchill's not a bad guy. So I would say I'm supposed to say scoundrel, but I would say he's a gentleman.
Very good, nice. Colonel Brandon.
Gentleman. Snape from Sense and Sensibility.
Snape from Sense and Sensibility.
That's who plays him in the movie. Alan Rickman. Snape. Gentleman. But some would say scoundrel, but they would be remiss.
Also presents as a scoundrel, but is actually a gentleman.
But in book 7, you find out he's a gentleman.
Edward Ferrars.
Gentleman. That was my character in Sense and Sensibility, whose name I did not remember when we went on our walk yesterday.
Good.
I'm
glad
wasn't
you've
I
been
calling
brushing
myself
up.
something else? Was I like, was my name Edmund? Or
Yeah.
I knew it was
You got-
it started with E, but I never remember what it was.
A couple more here. These are my trickier ones.
'Kay.
John Willoughby.
Willoughby. He is a scoundrel from Sense and Sensibility.
A
true scoundrel.
A true scoundrel.
In every sense of the word.
Yeah.
Maybe the biggest scoundrel.
More so
Because
than our guy in this one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
because he like goes and knocks people up. Willoughby.
Oh, that's
he
right.
knocks up the Colonel Brandon's sister or niece or somebody or somebody he loved. I don't know. Somebody important to him, and then leaves her. After knocking her up, and then tries to knock up Kate Winslet, and then like leaves her because he couldn't get it. He can get the job done, and then he's off knocking up other people at the end of the thing. He's like,
right. He is a scoundrel.
He's the biggest scoundrel we ever met.
Willoughby scoundrels.
Yeah, Willoughby's the worst.
John Dashwood.
That's a good question. John Dashwood. John Dashwood. I'm assuming it's from Emma. Nope, I was just kidding.
It's from your dissertation.
Oh, he's from Sensibility. Are we sure? Because there's 3 main characters. He's
not any of them.
Willoughby, Edward, and Colonel Brandon.
He's just a random guy who it ends up, I think he's the reason why there's so much money problems for the 2 sisters, because
he's a brother.
Yeah, he's supposed to give them money, but then like his wife persuades him not to.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's his thing.
Okay, so I guess he's a scoundrel, but it sounds like the game is changing. It's not the love interest anymore, or like throwing in side characters who might be dicks.
I just want to get some harder ones. All right, my last one for you.
Okay.
This has been a lovely segment. Mr. Elton.
Mr. Elton. Okay, he's a goofball from Emma.
Yes,
and
he's like a Mr. Collins.
Yeah.
She's got the goofball as well.
Yep. And so, I mean, we're not supposed to want him to end up with anybody, so you could say scoundrel, but he like doesn't do anything that bad. He's just like himself, and he's kind of unlikable. So he's a gentleman.
Yeah. I think he has such a fun turn too with his wife, because his wife becomes like just obnoxious later on, and she's one of my favorite characters.
They're a great
in that
pair.
Too. They're a great pair. So yeah, he's a gentleman. All right, I can get into budget, but before that, can I get into any more of your thoughts or pieces that you want to touch on?
Yeah, let me just go through. Can we talk about sideburns?
Oh, I can't believe I missed that. I didn't have a section called sideburns.
So right now, everybody's into the Bridgerton phase. Or they were. We're maybe like coming out of it now. I know season 3 is coming out, but I don't know.
Oh, it's out, baby.
No, I don't think so.
It just dropped this week.
I think it drops in 2 days.
How do you know that?
May 16th.
Why do you know that?
Because I just saw a thing. Netflix sends me emails being like, what's new?
Yeah, right.
And it said Bridgerton's coming out May 16th.
Oh,
so
right.
I think
they were
they're 2
already
days
doing interviews, so I thought it was out.
I bet. They're probably trying to drum up interest. So I'm curious, how sexy are Austenian sideburns? Because the hairstyle is not that crazy.
No, it's not. I would say an Austenian sideburn mixed with an open shirt. It's pretty spicy.
So you like the Bronte look more than Austenian look. Because Austenian is not open shirt in the rain.
I know.
You're a Bronte girl.
Only when it comes to the men. But no, those are bad boys. Heathcliff is the ultimate bad boy.
Yeah,
I am not a Heathcliff. I'm a Mr. Knightley. I don't know how many times I must tell you this.
Mr. Knightley doesn't have his shirt open.
Well, I'm just saying, you asked me about sideburns, and I started thinking about shirts.
Yeah.
Open shirts.
So you want Heathcliff's open shirt, but you want him with the personality of a Knightley.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay. Yeah, but that's not Austenian.
I don't know who it is. But I like it.
Very good. I pointed this out to Rach. If you ever go back and watch this, watch the dance scenes and watch the camera, because the camera is dancing too. So the characters,
you had to point that out to me.
When the characters bounce, the camera bounces a little bit, just a little bit, just a little
bounce.
shake, a little bounce, and then when they waltz later in the movie, the camera literally is waltzing with it. It's going side to side with these all little dips in it, almost like in this 1 2 3 1 2 3 time. It's wild.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah, but
How do you do that?
It was cool. I loved it. Half this movie was dancing. Long shots. We talked about that. Oh, okay. Here's a question for you. So Elizabeth has this little gnome character who is the ugly guy with the mullet who works at who's a pastor.
Mr. Collins.
Mr. Collins. So she's got this little gnome character who's after her.
Her cousin.
Yep. Now, tell me a time, and it could be a cousin. That's fine. Tell me about a time when you've had a little gnome after you and how you shut them down.
Are you thinking of a time specifically?
No. I just thought you maybe would have a moment to share where you had a little know-me guy who was like, yeah, so we should make this happen. And you were like, I'm going to shut you down.
Well, I did. There was someone my freshman year of college who I was in an English class with, and I thought we were friendly. Just I was nice. He wore a bucket hat all the time, and this was before bucket hats were cool again. I know you're thinking like bucket hats. I have one right now. Yeah, I think they're cool again, but they were not cool again in 2005.
When you say bucket hats, what do you mean?
Like a fisherman hat, like the one that comes down and goes like bloop around here.
Yeah,
like
I still don't think they're very cool, but I have some friends who
But
wear
they're cooler again.
Yeah.
Would you say now versus like they were not cool when we were in college?
I don't know. I've never liked them, so I probably didn't pay much attention to when they were in or when they were out.
I had one in middle school. That was probably at their peak.
Okay.
I was young. I was cool. Trying to emulate those high schoolers.
So he's wearing
those 90s
this,
high schoolers.
He's wearing this little fisherman
He
bucket
wears
hat.
it all the time. I ignore said silly hat. But then like, I mean, we had to work on like a paper together. I know, and then he would like start showing up at my dorm. And
hey, you want to peer review that paper one more time?
Yeah, it just got kind of weird, and I didn't handle it very well, and so I kind of just like.
So did you shut him down like Keira Knightley did? You're like,
no,
I wouldn't marry you if you were the last man on earth.
No, I didn't handle it well at all. I just like started like ghosting him, like after that class was done, and just was like, okay, well. Yep, see you later.
Go,
see you never. Trying to be nice about it, but like that's not nice. It's also like, but the hard thing is he never like came out and like never said like I want to be your boyfriend, like because I was dating somebody and that was clear to this person. But so I can't say like, hey, I don't want to spend time with you and I think you have a crush on me and it's making me feel weird. Like I don't know. Is it? Yeah, I don't know. It's sometimes you just get yourself in those predicaments and the best thing you can do is just evaporate into thin air. I don't know. I don't know how to handle that. I'm not good at that.
Ghosting's not always a bad thing.
Yeah.
Ghosting sometimes saves people a lot of problems.
Yeah.
A lot of trouble.
Think
Sometimes
so?
you have to confront it.
Yeah.
But sometimes ghosting works.
Yeah, it's hard. It just never got to the point where there was anything to confront.
Yeah.
Other than like that wouldn't be mean. That wouldn't be just me being like, hey, I kind of find you weird at times and while it was cool to like hang out like in class and like to write our papers together or whatever, I think you're a nice enough person, but like I don't want to be friends with you long term.
Yeah.
Like if I'm being brutally honest, that's what I would have said, and I don't think that's a nice thing to say. So I think you just like a little white lie and you just disappear.
You know, Rach once called me out and said, "Are you in love with me?"
When did I say that?
Well,
I said it like that.
Yeah,
I said,
like
"Are you
that.
in love with me?"
I
I
mean,
said, "Don't fall in love with me." Is what I said.
I just like watch her remember. What's the first thing I told you? And she smacked me, and she goes, "Don't fall in love with me." I was like, "Ouch,
ouch." Have you ever had a situation like that where you've had to break some hearts?
I have had to tell people.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, I'm kind of in like I would always make up something. I'd be like, there's somebody I've got my eye on right now. So at this moment, I am not available. Like I would make it clear, like I'm not dating that person.
Yeah,
but I would be
lie,
like,
but
I'm into somebody right now, and that person is not named you. So I did say stuff like that.
That's so honest. See, you
well,
do
because
such a nice job
what I
of
thought
that.
was nice about it is it didn't mean it didn't mean like I don't like you like that.
Yeah,
it doesn't
not
mean
closed.
like which probably gave them false hope. I think I probably did that way too often actually, but it felt nice.
Yeah,
it felt like I was clear, and I don't have to worry about that for
you
now.
put some
I
nice
probably
boundaries
have like
out.
a good month, and hopefully that they find somebody else to go bother. So that's how I did it.
There you have it.
Mm-hmm.
Budget?
Let's do it.
All right, budget. $28 million, the estimated for the budge. Like we said, it came out in November of 2005, right around Thanksgiving. Opening weekend, it made $2 million in the U.S. and Canada.
No.
So we got to start making our money up.
Yeah, we do.
Don't worry. Cumulative, $121 million.
Whoa!
So,
rousing success.
We did it.
Yeah,
we got there eventually. It took some time,
Yeah.
but we got there. It's a slow burn. Like, since when is like Pride and Prejudice like the box office hit? Like everyone's seeing it.
But what did it start out at?
$2 million the first weekend.
And then it came out in Thanksgiving?
Yep.
Okay. But then do you know where it was on the box office charts?
No, I didn't do that.
Okay, that's fine.
No.
If you start talking, I could find it out real quick.
Oh, sure. I'll talk about awards since you don't care about those.
Lovely.
I
care about awards.
Well,
what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You can talk about the Globes. I'm going to trash all over them. I care about it.
Speaking of the Globes, it was nominated for Best Actress and, this is kind of weird, Best Film, Musical or Comedy. I guess it's a comedy, but
I guess it is a comedy.
Would we say comedy versus drama, though?
So I
wouldn't have put
I would
it in
actually
that
put it in the
category.
drama category.
Yeah, maybe they thought they had a better chance of winning.
I think it's 65-35
Yeah,
drama.
I would agree. So it did not win either. And then for the Oscars, it was nominated. Best Actress again for Keira Knightley.
By the way,
what?
It never did well in the States.
Oh, yeah?
It was ranked 10th on its opening weekend, and then it dropped to 11th on week 2, and then it rose to 7th and 6th at its peak. So it gained a little steam, but it never cracked the top 5.
Yeah, wow.
So it must have internationally done super well.
Yeah. Well, all these people watching it.
Yeah, here, 38 million domestic, 83 million international. So the Brits really carried the day.
We must assume. Oscar noms, like I said, Best Actress, Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, and Best Original Score.
Cool.
All noms.
All those are very fair noms. Yep, those are strengths of the piece.
The music. You know I love the music
great.
for this because you have heard it because I have it on several
Oh,
playlists.
it's beautiful.
It's so nice.
Beautiful music. It's sweeping. It's romantic. It's elegant. It's glorious. It's a lot.
Wow.
It's really good.
That's really high praise on.
Yeah. The music's incredible.
And now that you've seen it and you mix that landscape visual with the music, I don't think you can unsee it.
Yeah, I think that's very fair.
It's beautiful.
Yep.
All right. Some critics. Not the consensus, but what some critics said.
Okay.
Too much real rain.
Too rainy.
Too rainy. Much of the action takes place against tempestuous weather, which simply isn't in the novel. This is from Professor Joan Kingle Ray of the American Austen Society, or ASS, as we like to call it. But the critics' consensus says, sure, it's another adaptation of cinema's favorite Jane Austen novel, but key performances and a modern filmmaking sensibility make this familiar period piece fresh and enjoyable. Rotten Tomatoes score, 87%.
Wow.
Audience, 89%.
Cool.
So right in lockstep with each
that's
other.
pretty high.
Yeah.
And I'm always surprised by that sometimes with a high score on a movie like this, because it feels like the audience, like the critics maybe would say it's higher than the audience, I would think.
Yeah.
And there'd be a bunch of dudes who had to watch it and be like, I'm going around tomatoes.
2.
Trash this score. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you want me?
I want you.
Yeah, you do. Okay. Rainy. Sexy. Stunningly shot. Great acting. It's a romantic pride. Even with its few whiffs, you should go watch it on a rainy day. I have gave this a 68, tied with Something's Gotta Give.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Something's Gotta Give. That's a throwback.
I did really like it. There was a moment at around the maybe 40% mark, and I was like, ooh, this is really good. And I was probably up in the high 70s. And then the middle part kind of dragged on and lost me a little bit. And then the sexy rain stuff I thought was really great. I just still stuck by the wrong casting. I was like, if you cast that better, I think this would have worked. Joseph Fiennes. That's a good example. That'd be a good person.
Oh, Joseph Fiennes. I was thinking Ray Fiennes.
No, not Ray Fiennes.
No.
Joseph Fiennes from
Voldemort?
Shakespeare in Love. He would have been. He's a great casting for this.
Oh, yeah. He's pretty spicy.
Now it would be well, not now, but back in The Giver, Skarsgård would be a good choice. That kind of actor.
Well, he's very tall. I don't think body-wise though. Joseph Fiennes isn't as big as.
But it's
what's his face is.
It's what they ooze. They ooze more romance.
I like his face better.
Yeah.
But I think I like Tom's body better. And by Tom, I mean Matthew.
I just gonna call him Tom.
Macfadyen.
Tom doesn't ooze sex for me.
Yeah.
Tom oozes good actor. Tom oozes sincere performance. Tom oozes really funny and entertaining to watch in succession. But he doesn't ooze sex, and I wanted him to ooze sex.
Which is interesting, though. You say that because I wonder how sexy his Heathcliff is in the...
I don't think I like it.
In the Wuthering Heights.
Yeah, I don't think it's for me.
Yeah. Did you really identify with Heathcliff when you played him in high school?
You've seen the performance.
Did you feel
You know how bad it was. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was 17 years old. We were like, oh, Catherine, oh, no. Oh, and trying to force tears and overly emoting. In competition, it was pretty funny. We were in Lincoln High, which is a horrible space. Sorry for my Lincoln High alumni who might be listening to this. You have a terrible, terrible space. It's the echoiest chamber that I've ever been in. I don't know why anybody ever does theater in that space. And we held it for a state competition. And we had never been to this set before. We had to travel. And usually you get like a little bit more time. Like, I don't know. You have a load in, so you don't get more time. But it's usually easier to see the makeup of the stage and how it's kind of worked out. Well, this is like kind of a compact stage. And it's just like really long. And so we load in. And I don't have a lot of time to like figure out what the hell's going on. And there's all these curtains back there. Like there's like 4 rows of curtains. And so they have like certain curtains closed and certain curtains are open. I don't know the frickin' space. And so Catherine, my love interest, died on the bed. I just had the most emotional scene, like by candlelight. And she's dying in front of me. And I'm like, no, Catherine, no. And I'm supposed to run off stage.
Yeah.
I can't just run straight through the wings because there's a scene that's coming on from the wings to like on a transition. And so I'm supposed to run upstage. Well, the curtains, when they got set, they're all over the freaking place. So I get trapped in curtains. I'm literally going through a jungle gym gymnasium of curtain madness, trying to navigate through it. I'm like flying through the curtains, trying to figure out how to get out. And I finally escape the curtain tentacles. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? And then during the feedback session, the person was like, yeah, it's pretty hard to figure out those curtains when I know it's a new space for you, but you got to figure out those curtains before you start the show. I'm like, F you, major birds right to your face. Yeah, so it didn't go very well, but I just wasn't ready for that role. It's a role I would tackle now.
It's a high school role. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What high schooler is ready for Heathcliff? Like, I don't think I want to know that kid. I'd be concerned. I'd be calling his parents. Like, very concerning behavior from your son today.
Starting to talk like Heathcliff in classes. Getting very irritable. Starting to punch people.
Concerned about his attitude towards women. I have this pretty high. I have this at a 90%.
Wow.
Tied with Clueless, obviously.
Oh, okay.
And Killer Clowns.
Oh, wow.
So it's in good company.
This is in rarefied air. Because those 2 movies to me are creme de la creme.
So good. So good. Yeah. No, I hadn't seen it in forever. Really enjoyed it. Thought like, yeah, I get why people watch this more than just once every 5 years like I watch it. Like I could see why this would be like, oh yeah, I'll just put this on as like nice.
Well, you
background.
just watched it 3 years ago.
I did just watch it 3 years ago.
So
I'm
I'm
already shortening the amount of time before I rewatch it again.
Yep. How long do you think it will be until you rewatch it next time?
2.
I was gonna say, I bet it's 2.
It's 2 years.
Yep.
I bet I get a hankering in 2 years.
Yep. I bet
There's so many movies to watch in the meantime. Maybe I'll watch the 95 version.
Go for it.
No, you wouldn't rewatch the 95 version
I
with
will
me?
not be rewatching it with you. Let's clear that up on the air in front of the thousands of witnesses we have with us today. I will not be watching that with you.
No.
You are solo on that adventure.
What do we got next week?
So we did our first Austen.
Yeah.
Right? This is the first ever, maybe our only Austen we'll ever do.
Well, Clueless, but we don't really count that.
Yeah.
Loosely adapted.
Yeah. So good. It's like almost its own category. So we're going to do our first courtroom drama.
Ooh.
And this won't be our last courtroom drama. We have more courtroom dramas on the list.
Do we now?
But it will be our first and probably last courtroom drama of the season. We're going to do a John Grisham.
John Grisham.
Yep, I know you enjoy him as an
Ooh,
author. We'll talk
I
a little
do.
bit about Grisham's history. We'll talk a little bit about the history of this piece.
Okay.
The historical accuracy of a lot of it, which is interesting.
Oh, true crime.
A little bit of true crime, a little manipulation of it, a little adaptation of it, but it's based on some real stuff. And we are going to do the 1996 classic, the Matthew McConaughey breakout. Yeah, I hope they die. I hope they run hell. That wasn't him. That was Samuel L. Jackson. We are going to be doing A Time to Kill. There's another side of this where it's not just like you gotta leave all your emotions at the door, and there's some people who are like, no, embrace it, and be like, well, I'm really like sexed up today, so I'm like I'm gonna be like extra flirty with all my like fellow characters on stage right now. I'm gonna bring me to the role.
Washerwoman number 4 is really amped up, so you're gonna see it, I think.
Exactly.